Welcome to the Election University podcast, a weekly show where we hear from industry experts who share tips and tricks for winning campaigns. Whether you're running for office now, thinking about it for the future, or just want to know more about campaigns and elections, Election University is for you. With Election University, click, learn, win. And now your hosts, Jason Bennett and Rainey Cohen.
Hello.
Hi.
How you doing, Rainey?
Pretty great. How are you, Jason?
I'm doing well. It's candidate filing week here in Washington State, so
boy.
We're riding the wave.
Tell me more about what that means for you in your current work.
It means that I spend most of the day filing for candidates, filing for office and running emergencies about websites not working or payments not working.
So this is kind of the week that everyone who's running this year declares like officially their candidacy.
Yep. And it's a week long and people can do it in person or online, or they can mail in their stuff. I'd say majority of the people file online so that it's immediately registered and they have lots of time to correct any problems that might happen. But it's also not even just for candidates who are running for office. It's also for precinct committee officers, which is our very basic elected office. Every legislative district has a certain number of precincts, and those precincts have precinct committee officers or PCOs. And you get one for the Republican Party and you get one for the Democratic Party. So there's lots of filing frenzy going on today.
Fun fact about that. My wife is the PCO for our precinct, and she messaged me today and was like, so do you want to file instead?
Yeah.
And I was like, maybe. Let's talk about it later.
Yeah, there's a lot of household negotiation going on, I'm imagining, all across this great state of ours. And thank you to our listeners for joining us for another episode of Election University podcast. We really appreciate you tuning in for another episode. Last week's episode, can we just talk about that for a second?
Yeah, from the Women Project.
Yes, we went out to Rhode Island and interviewed, not physically went out to Rhode Island. We ventured our phone call over to Rhode Island and talked to these two amazing women.
Jordan and Jocelyn,
who are heading up the Women Project. And I can't even describe how popular that episode was. It was like off the charts.
Instant downloads.
Posted. So much feedback, lots of activity on social media. I mean, our next closest episode, which was the episode, well, there's like a total number of downloads and then like a single day download.
Right.
So the robocall one was our single best day robocall.
Wow.
Yeah, I know, download
People
that we
love
had.
learning about the robocalls.
Yeah, I mean, I think, every episode just gets a little bit more popular than the previous one. And that had been our single best day download. This download was 4 times better in a 24-hour period than that episode. 4 times. That's
super awesome.
Off the charts.
It was a really great interview. And I will say that the day the interview posted, the Women Project was in Washington, D.C., in front of the Supreme Court doing they were collecting signatures for the quilt that they're putting together.
Right.
I was also in Washington, D.C., and I tried so hard to connect with them, but we couldn't make the timing work out, and I was super disappointed.
Oh, too bad.
Yeah, but so hopefully we can figure out a way to maybe remote contribute to, I don't know if they can mail me squares or something.
I think they did say something during the interview about mailing you a kit, if I remember correctly. So
just reinforcing that I'd still like to participate in that.
Excellent. Yeah. So absolutely fantastic podcast. And we garnered 2 new countries as a result of that podcast. So welcome Ireland and Vietnam to the growing list of countries that are listening to Election University podcast. I still don't understand why that's happening, but I love it. And thank you to our listeners in Ireland and Vietnam. We value you just as much as our U.S. listeners as well. So thank you very much for that. Looking ahead to our next episode, we actually, just as further evidence that we do take our feedback and responses very seriously from our listeners, we had gotten a request from one of our big fans, Nicole, this is a shout out to you, who had requested help on stump speeches. She really wanted us to do an episode on stump speeches.
Wow.
And so we contacted President Bill Clinton's former speechwriter, Eric Liu, and he is going to be coming on and talking us through speeches and what works and what doesn't work and how to craft a great one and things to watch out for. So I'm really excited to chat with him.
That could be an interesting one to listen like back to back with the introvert episode and then how to write a some speech. Like, I feel like public speaking is such a terrifying part of running for office that I'm hoping that Eric can give us some tips on just how you get through that if that's not a natural thing for you to be doing.
Right, exactly. So I'm looking forward to chatting with him too. And aside from that, he's working on this excellent project called Citizen University, which is getting people back into civic engagement and how to be better citizens. And he just is one of the most optimistic and hope-filled people that I know in politics. He's been doing it a long time. And I don't know
how does he even maintain?
I don't know. His cynicism is not going to be a part of his vocabulary. So I'm really excited to be chatting with him because I think it's going to be a good, inspirational, and very useful conversation for our listeners. So excited about that.
Hooray.
Well, let's talk about what we're going to be doing today.
Yes.
I am excited about what we're doing today. As an honor to our candidate filing week, we decided that we were going to launch 2 new great features on our website. And we wanted to walk people through. We realized, talking about this, that we had not really walked people through Election University's website. We spent a lot of time on the podcast talking about the podcast, but we don't really walk people through the website. So as we're launching these 2 new features, we're going to walk people through what our website does and what Election University can do for you outside of the podcast, some other free tools.
Yeah. So first and foremost, electionu.com.
Right.
Now you know where to find it.
We do talk about that in the outro message, but I realize that we don't really talk about the website very much.
Yeah.
We do on Facebook and on social media link back to the podcast in our, we stream it live on the website for folks through an app, but we don't really, drop the
But like
website.
when I listen to the podcast, I listen on Spotify. So I don't visit the website. So for those of you who have never visited, electionu.com.
Right.
That's the website that you need to remember. And it's full of all of these cool things. Like not only can you find all of the podcasts that we have been doing all in one place, but we have some tools that have been up there for a little while, which we'll talk about in a minute. But Jason, do you want to tell us about what's launching today?
Yeah, we've got 2 great new features that we're launching today. And one of them is a jobs board. So one of the frustrations that I have with jobs board, generally speaking, and you and I both work with young adults, so we're constantly giving folks, help and information and guidance on applying for jobs in politics. We have a great podcast episode about how to break into politics. And one of the things that is frustrating about jobs boards is, one, it's very difficult to find jobs that are specifically for politics, right? Mm-hmm. Unless you go to like websites such as usajobs.gov, which is, pretty much anything in the US government. Very hard to navigate. And a lot of those jobs require a certain number of years of experience to get some of the higher paying jobs there. There is jobsthatareleft.com, which is a great website tool as well. It's free to post and free to access the information, but isn't necessarily always refreshed or all inclusive based on state. We have Idealist and Glassdoor and lots of other resources out there, but they're not necessarily segmented for politics. So, and one of the other things that I find incredibly frustrating is that many of those sites do not list salary.
Yeah. That's super frustrating for me. I don't like applying to jobs that don't list salary. Like sometimes I don't even bother.
Yeah. I mean, DOE is, very common listing for salary requirement. So what we're going to do on this rollout is we're making mandatory the salary requirements so that people have at least an understanding what the salary range is, right, if the job fits them and their income needs, or if it's just completely not doable for them. We want folks to know that information up front.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Are free unpaid internships going to be posted on this job board, or is there a requirement that there be a salary in order for Election U to post it?
We do have the unpaid internships, but it'll be its own section in there.
It's a different category.
That's
nice.
right.
All right.
Yes. So we will be requiring that, and it will be free for anybody to post. It'll be free for anybody to access. We have loaded more than 300 jobs already on the site across this great land of ours. So it's a vibrant site, and we hope that folks will feel encouraged to, create their own sign-up account and start posting jobs that they see.
And I really like the searchability of this, considering that this is a nationwide jobs board that can get really overwhelming really quickly. And you can narrow down by city or state. You can do keywords. You can put in a pay range, which is why it's so important that people are listing the salary ranges. But even like party affiliation and type of job. So super easy to navigate. And next time I'm looking for a job, coming right here.
Yeah, that's great. So, folks, we want to encourage folks to go to the website, sign up for an account. What we're going to be doing as an eventual rollout is folks are going to be able to sign up for the state that they want to monitor. And then we will literally be stuffing into your inbox every week the most recent job postings. Once we get this, rolling and things are kind of humming along really quickly, we will start an automated service so that you can call jobs that you're specifically interested in. So if you're looking at jobs on the West Coast and you also want to keep an eye on what's going on in DC, if any interesting jobs and you're willing to relocate, you can do that. So
sweet.
It should be a very, very cool tool. And of course, if anybody has any suggestions on how we can make this even better for people, please let us know. podcast@electionu.com. All right. That's feature number 1.
All right. Feature number 2 is the find a vendor feature.
Yeah. So similar to the jobs board, this is a listing of political vendors that do this work year in and year out. So as we were developing this and we were getting feedback from candidates who struggle with, well, who's a vendor in my state that does printing? Who works in my state, but actually understands the difference between political mail printing and mailing and just regular printing and mailing. And folks that do this work year in and year out, so understand the deadlines and the timelines and the urgency and, the things that require a certain amount of knowledge about the campaign ethos, so to speak. And so we wanted to develop a Yelp style, vendor list for folks. So that's what we did. We pulled this together. We have more than 460 vendors from across 50 states, and we are excited to be launching this feature. So folks, right now, if you have worked on at least 3 campaigns over 2 election cycles, that can be 2 back-to-back election years or 2 full cycles, we are listing you and calling you EU certified, Election University certified.
Ooh.
We assume that means that you have some credential and people think positively of your work and you've worked on more than 1 cycle. So what we're allowing folks to do then is vendors, people out there who are doing this work year in and year out, if you don't see yourself on that list, it could be a number of reasons why. One, we pull this data from public disclosure reports. So maybe your state isn't super easy to navigate, or the candidates that we use to pull this information didn't file necessarily accurately, or it just, didn't get to the list. That's entirely possible too. But if you are a vendor and you want to be listed and you can show us that you have been working on campaigns for at least 2 election cycles and on at least 3 different campaigns, you can create your own profile. If you are a vendor that we've already listed and you want to own that profile, you want to update the information, you want to change the logo, you can claim your own profile. So that's a nice feature for us. And I think our vendors and candidates will really like that.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
I like that there's a rating system and you can add like the victory guide folks added contact us information and a little description. And I don't know, it seems like pretty customizable.
Yeah.
If you are a vendor wanting to sign up. So
yeah. And, we here at Election University strive to be multi-partisan. So if you are a Republican vendor or you're working with a third-party organization, Rainey and I have mentioned several times that we are Democratic and that those are the circles that we swing in. If you are not necessarily, we have listed you on here. You are a part of the listing, and we believe that that service should be available to you as well. So you can sort by party affiliation. What else was I going to say about this? Oh, one of the challenges that we are having with this in particular, like Yelp, people can leave comments and do ratings and such. And how do you prevent sabotage, right?
Sure.
So we're working hard to, monitor and make sure that this isn't just a, sour grapes, kind of review, that this is actually something that's thoughtful and definitely is, not your opposition trying to sink,
Right.
your competitors trying to sink your reputation by giving you a bad rating, that these are actually people who have worked with you that think positively about your work.
Right.
So
Cool.
yeah. And again, if we have any folks out there that think we should be adding or removing or changing any features, let us know. We're happy to help with any and all of those.
So this also seems like a prime opportunity to talk about some of the tools that already exist on the website.
Yes.
If we want to go into the Wayback Machine to episode 3, that was about about cybersecurity and how to lock down your campaign. Mostly Jason, but we provide an ebook, a free downloadable ebook for you to have all the access to all the things that you need to make sure that your website and email and things are secure. And I will tell you, the biggest thing I took away from that episode and from this ebook is to use Signal as my texting app.
Yes.
That came directly out of advice from Benjamin, who was our guest on the podcast that day. And it's a little buggy, but I feel much better using it.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. The Signal, the other nice thing about Signal is that it's constantly upgrading and, fixing its bugs and whatnot. But it's a great tool. Benjamin Caudill of Rhino Security Labs came in, talked to us about campaign security and the very easy steps that we can take to take our campaign security or our own personal security from a level 2 and turn it to a level 8 on a scale of 1 to 10, of course, and to improve your security. And that one simple tool can actually take it from a 2 to a 6 just automatically with one simple suggestion, which is turning on your 2-factor authentication.
I tell you, I have started doing that too as a direct result.
So
of
2
this
things,
podcast.
not one thing.
The biggest thing was the Signal. The second thing is I've
good.
begun to set it. I've been very lax about
That warms my heart.
before this.
Yep. So our ebook that we post on the website, anybody can sign up for it. Anybody can download it. It's a free tool. Offers 15 very simple tips and tricks that you can do to lock down your campaign security. You want to keep Russia out. You want to keep North Korea out. Yes.
All right.
So 15 tips and tricks to lock down your campaign security and setting up 2-factor authentication, downloading Signal, using a VPN when you're on public Wi-Fi. Very simple tools. Download the ebook. Anybody can get it. It's absolutely free to our campaigns and to our listeners. We appreciate you doing that. And then more recently, we partnered with the Purple Campaign, an organization that came together in the Me Too movement to end sexual harassment in the workplace. Mm-hmm. We partnered with them to come up with some very simple campaign tools, code of conduct, and an employee contract, a sample employee contract that campaigns can download and customize for their own personal use and for their state. So please consult an employment attorney or some sort of attorney about the laws that are specific to your state, but a general outline of code of conduct and employee conduct on a campaign.
What is the difference between the code of conduct and the employee contract? Those seem to me like they could be.
They're pretty similar. I think
same.
the code of conduct is meant to be, what is appropriate behavior and what is not appropriate behavior? What sort of environment are we creating to let people know that it's safe for them to talk to somebody? What are the parameters? What are the clear, bright lines? An employee contract really is going to be more about like, this is what you're going to get paid. This is what the roles and responsibilities are. These are the rules around, these are your roles and responsibilities. This is the terms of you're going to be covered with healthcare. You're not going to be covered with healthcare. You're going to, be paid this amount of money.
Like social
disclosure
media use and things like that.
Right.
Like, yeah.
Yeah. You will not talk to the media. You will not represent the candidates' positions. Things like that, I think, are generally what the employee contract would cover or you'd want to cover. So some very simple tools that can be customized for your specific campaign. if you are hiring staff, it can also be applied to volunteers, can be used for donors, however you want to branch this out. It's a great template and guideline, I think, for folks who just are struggling with how to really formalize
where to
this
get
process.
started in language, right? And you can customize it to whatever fits your campaign.
Exactly.
Cool.
Yeah.
I love it.
So 2 new features. We are rolling out the vendor sign up and the jobs board. We do want to give a shout out to our very first vendor sign up. That we before we even launched this, we had somebody who went to the website and just signed up. So Victory Guide, if you're listening out there, thank you very much for signing up.
Yay.
We definitely want to encourage our listeners to check them out. They do social media work, digital work on in Maryland. I think they're based in Maryland, if I remember correctly. They work in all 50 states, but they're based in Maryland.
And the jobs board, always, always, always free.
Always free.
Just wanted to really
underscore that.
Yeah.
I like that. And I appreciate you saying that, because I do think that's like one of my frustrations with things like Idealist and Glassdoor and some of the other jobs is like they either charge you to access the information. Like Daybook is one of those that, like, if you are a job seeker, you are getting charged for access to the information, or they charge to post. So if you're a job provider, they will charge you. You're an employer, you are going to be charged to post your comments. So this is always going to be free. We really want to connect good people with great jobs and make that, barrier to entry very low for folks.
So awesome.
Yeah, excited for that. So in the coming phase 3 portion of Election University's website, we're going to be rolling out our campaign school. It's going to be an online tutorial for first-time candidates who want to learn more about how to run their campaigns. It'll be videos that folks can access, an online classroom. You can keep homework, take notes, take quizzes. There's going to be lots of free tools that are going to be available to candidates who are interested in learning more on how to run for office and want everything kind of centralized in one easy software piece.
Sweet. I know that I've said this before on the podcast, but my favorite tool that I'm waiting to be available is the design your own logo.
Yeah.
There's something about graphic design that completely escapes my brain, and I wouldn't even know how to design something that looked good if I were running for office. And so I'm really excited that's a tool that's going to be included in this whole package.
Yeah, and we are working with our designers right now to finish some of those pieces. And as you can see, the prices that we will be charging folks for access to this, it's a very low monthly fee. And we are excited about rolling some of this stuff out. So we're just going to make this as easy as possible for candidates to do it yourself. If you are running in a district that, and have a budget for running for office that does not include professionalizing your team, like hiring a consultant or having campaign staff, you're going to have to do a lot of this on your own.
Yeah.
And so we're just trying to provide a tool for you that will save you a lot of time and prevent you from recreating the wheel.
And I mean, that's where the vendor list comes in, right? Like you are taking this campaign school and you're getting all ready to go. And then here you can marry it with the vendors who are going to be in your area. And we're just trying to provide it all to you at electionu.com.
Exactly. So I think that's it for this week.
Yeah. I mean, happy filing week, everyone. I like that we're doing this in honor of all of the candidates who are filing, at least in Washington State this week, and hope that you find the tools and features useful.
Yes. And if you would like to offer a suggestion on a topic or subject that you think we should be covering on Election U, please feel free to email us at any time, podcast@electionu.com. And thank you to our listeners for tuning in again on another episode of Election University Podcast.
Keep the suggestions coming.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. And we take all of your recommendations very seriously. And we love to interact with our listeners on social media and in our inbox. And we value you. Please also jump over to iTunes and subscribe. And if you can, leave us a rating. The reason that we keep asking folks for the ratings and comments on there is it actually increases some sort of bizarre iTunes algorithm that makes our show easier to search. So the more ratings and feedback that we get on there, the more it bubbles up to the top.
It makes us look more popular. And so we'll be floating our way up the list.
Yeah, and it's sort of a keyword thing too, so that if in the comments you're posting questions or commentary about the podcast and the topics in the podcast, it makes the search engine more optimal, blah, blah. I don't understand any of that witch's brew, to be honest with you. Yeah. So please feel free to head on over to iTunes and leave us a review.
Awesome.
We really appreciate it. Thanks again for listening to Election University Podcast. I'm Jason Bennett.
And I'm Rainey Cohen.
Thanks again, and we'll talk to you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. This week's episode has ended, but the campaign fun doesn't have to. Head on over to www.electionu.com, where you can access all of the links mentioned in today's episode, as well as the show notes. There you can also sign up for regular announcements or register for our campaign school. It's your very own